Now tonight we are going to be completing the construction of our Amazon site. This is really going to involve all of the main content, pretty much everything besides our Amazon advertising, which we will add in next week and then continue on with marketing the site after that. So tonight is going to be all about finishing the construction on the site. This is going to involve the additional pages of content as well as connecting up all of the pages on the site with links and menus, and also will involve using widgets, and I will be teaching you guys how you can put customized widgets on certain pages so they show up on some pages of your site but not on other pages, so you get more of a complete control over your site. You get everything structured and organized and ready to go. Then after we are finished with this, all you need to do is add on your advertisements and your site is completely done. Now, to start with, if you remember from the previous class, we built a home page and 3 category pages, and then we connected them together using a custom HTML menu on the home page. Well, today we are going to be connecting those category pages up with the remaining pages on the site, and those remaining pages on the site would also have to be constructed. However, since this is obviously a limited time session here, I didn't want to be spending half of it putting all of these different pages on the site. So I have gone ahead and added this content and created these different pages so I can actually move along to the parts that actually involve showing you guys something that you haven't seen before, because creating these different pages is really no different from how I created the home page of the site or the different category pages. So I've just gone through, and each of my different page topics that I had, I clicked on Add New. I created a new page. I gave it a title. I put all the content into my page. And from there, I can proceed on with connecting everything together. However, since I'm not actually going through each of these individual pages here in the class tonight, I wanted to at least talk to you guys about the different types of pages that I will build on my websites. I typically have about 4 different kinds of pages that I will build on my site beyond the home page and the category pages that I have already constructed. So I am simply going to walk you guys through those 4 different types of pages here before I proceed on with connecting everything else together. So the first page here, this is the About page of my site. This is really the one page type that I would consider to be completely optional. This is something that I've just kind of made a habit of doing on my affiliate sites as I built them over the years, and it's also a place where I put legal disclaimers that I might be required to have on my website. As long as it's something that I don't have to have on every single page or on specific pages of my site, then I will typically place those statements here. So this About page is really just a basic summary, kind of a mission statement, if you will, of what my entire website is really about and what people can expect from it. And then down here at the bottom is the actual legal statement that I use. This is required by Amazon on all Amazon affiliate websites. I have simply place this here at the bottom of the site, and I've done this on almost all of my other Amazon affiliate sites before this one. So this is something that you can rely upon, and Amazon isn't going to boot you out for not having this statement as long as it is on one page of your site. And I linked to this page through the header menu on my site, so it is easy to access as well. This particular statement, it's copied and pasted directly from the Amazon Terms of Service. You guys can use it exactly as you see it here. I provide it for you in the guidebook as well. All this really is replacing a couple of particular words here. Right at the beginning, you replace your domain name. And further down here, the site that you are actually linking up to. If you're promoting Amazon.com products, you put Amazon.com. It could also be other locales of Amazon, Amazon.co.uk, for example, or it could be something like Endless.com, some of the other partner websites that you can promote products on as an Amazon affiliate. So whatever sites you're promoting, just make sure you are listing those in this particular statement. I'm really kind of getting ahead of myself. I cover this a little bit more in next week's class when we actually get into the Amazon affiliate program more, but this is where I put it, and I thought I would at least mention this to you guys while I am here. The next kind of page that I create, and this is getting on to more of the normal types of pages that I would create on a site, and also the kinds of pages that I would recommend for you to create as well. These are the subcategory pages. Now, to a certain extent, a subcategory page could technically be optional. If you just simply don't have the right page topics or organization and structuring of your page topics to the point where you don't need subcategory pages, that's quite all right. Don't have to worry about creating these. You don't need to force them in there if they simply don't work. But in circumstances where you have these main category pages that are linking up to different pages on your site, and some of those pages might also have some children pages, those would essentially be subcategory pages, and they're really not going to be any different from what a main category page is, except they may not be featured on the actual homepage of your website. People might have to dig through your site just a little bit more to try to reach them. I have one particular subcategory page that is on this site. This is my Pins On page, and this Pins On page simply contains a summary about the Pins On brand and talks about Amazon and their products a little bit. And then it also links up to two different sections of my site. I have the Pins On Primaloft page, and I have the Pins On Pyrenees page, and both of these pages will actually end up promoting Amazon products. So this Pins On page functions just like any of my other category pages will, and I'll actually end up creating a custom HTML menu on this page to link up to these additional pages that go along with it. The real type of page that I would like to show you here, one that actually involves perhaps something that I haven't shown you before, is an informational page. Informational pages are one of my favorite kinds of pages to create because while these pages are not going to directly make you money, without them, you're probably not going to make a whole lot of it because people won't find your website to be very useful. They won't have a reason to go there or reason to share it with their friends, and obviously they wouldn't have a reason to return to it at any point in time. So you want to make sure you satisfy all of those needs of your website visitors, and don't just push the product advertising upon them. Give them the information that they would want to find and learn about in addition to trying to sell products to them. So an informational page, one of them that I've created is the down fill power guide and ratings chart. This particular page, it really works like any of my other pages. Your informational pages don't have to follow a particular format. What you really need to do is determine the information that people are looking to learn about involving that particular subject matter, whatever it is that you're trying to target on any given page of your website, and present that information in the most useful, user-friendly way possible, and give them as much information as they will actually need to learn the subject matter. You don't have to try to overwhelm them with information. Just try to give them the important parts of it. So one of the ways that I will try to take the content of these informational pages and make it a little bit more interesting, so to speak, is to use various HTML stylings on it, like making my headers bolded. I will also add in images that go along with whatever I am talking about. And these I have shown you guys, like in the previous class, just going up here to add media and simply uploading an image of your own. You can put it into the content of your page really easily directly from this editor page here. In addition to that, I also will do things like create basic HTML tables where I will present information. This isn't being used to try to refer the sale on a particular product. It's simply being used to present information that might be ordinarily kind of complicated to present in an article format. And so instead you group everything up. There's some kind of structuring involved with this information, and you display it in a table format instead of simply having a bunch of different paragraphs of text. And the end result is you get not only a useful page, but a page that is appealing to look at, that has a little bit something extra to offer people. Just to show you exactly what this looks like on my live site, you can see that I have some different bolded headers going down my page. I have some relational pictures that go along with my content and what I'm talking about, and then I also have this chart down here for the different fill power ratings, so people can quickly learn about what these different rating numbers mean, and it will help them to figure out exactly what it is that they want to be purchasing when it comes to making a buying decision on a particular product. People may initially think they want one particular thing, but when they really learn about everything that goes along with that, they might be surprised to find out that that's really not what they want at all. And when it comes to down comforters, for example, this just happens to be one particular industry where that is the case. People always think higher fill power is simply going to be better. Well, it's not always going to be the case. If you live in a warm environment and you're not looking to be made incredibly warm by your comforter, if you end up buying a high fill power comforter, you're simply going to roast in it and probably never use it again. So you actually would want to go for a lower fill power rating. But a lot of people may not initially know this. When it comes to buying sheets for their bed, for example, they may go simply for the highest thread count and not think about what that actually means. They simply think more is better. So anytime you run into a situation like that, make sure you explain it the best way you possibly can to your website visitors so they can actually make these educated decisions for themselves. And it also helps to build that level of trust with them. So the next kind of page that I will create on my sites is going to be a product page. These product pages, again, they're really not much different from any of the other pages on my site. I have one particular topic that I'm trying to target, but ultimately the goal of this product page is to try to refer a sale on a Amazon product that I am promoting. And a lot of times I will try to build these pages to actually target one specific product at a time. So as an example, I have my Penzon Primaloft page. This page will be promoting the Penzon Primaloft Comforter, which is just one specific product that is available. I might also have some accessories or something to go along with this product, but ultimately this page is really only existing on my website to refer sales on a specific product relating to my niche. Now, obviously, these are going to be my money pages, so to speak. This is where my earnings come from, but I don't want to load up my site with too many of these pages, or else it gives people a different impression of what my site is really about. So try to limit yourself in terms of the number of products and the number of product pages that you have. If you find that you need to have a ton of different product pages on the website, try to match it in terms of the amount of informational pages you offer to your website visitors. There's nothing wrong with promoting 100 different product pages if you have 100 or more informational pages on your website. It's all in terms of keeping a balance that people are actually comfortable with. So in addition to promoting single products on a page, you could build a page surrounding a particular brand name, for example, or surrounding a very specific type of product, something that perhaps you have a keyword phrase that you want to try to target in the title of your page. There are some situations where you can promote more than just one product per page, and that is quite okay. But again, I would recommend to have most of your product pages end up promoting one main product per page, and then perhaps some accessories to go along with that product. And if you want to make some exceptions to this, just make a few product pages on your site that perhaps promote a variety of different products relating to that topic. That's a good question, Alice. Is that one informational page per product page? She's asking. I wouldn't necessarily say to keep that exact ratio. I would really say that that is kind of a minimum ratio that you would want to do. Don't have more product pages than you have informational pages. But honestly, on a lot of my websites, I'll end up having maybe 2 or 3 informational pages for every one product page that I build on my site. So really just try not to go below the 1-to-1 ratio. But typically I'll go as high as maybe a 3-to-1 or even a 4-to-1 ratio with obviously the informational pages getting more. So on these individual product pages, I again simply try to provide relevant information and useful information that people would actually want to try to find relating to this product. All of those customer reviews and questions and answers that you went through and reviewed, if you didn't decide to make a standalone page on your site about some of those topics, this is a great place to try to include that information. As much information as you can provide on the product, the better off you will be. And typically on the Amazon product pages themselves, for example, there will already be a decent amount of content there. And if you want to try to get direct traffic to the product pages on your site, then you might actually need to beat them in terms of the amount of content that you have to offer. So try to do more than just retrieve your content directly from Amazon. Go elsewhere on the internet and do some research and see what else you can find out about it. And put as much as you can find all into one location. And then we will end up adding on our Amazon advertisements to these product pages. But these advertisements are going to be done in the next class when we actually go through the entire site and install all of our advertising plugins and get all of that finalized and set up. So these are the basic types of pages that I will create on my site. I've gone through again and created all of these different pages that I want to have on my site. And now that they all exist on my site, I can proceed with actually doing the work that I need to do to connect all of this stuff together. And this begins by doing the same type of thing that I've done with the home page of my website. Just to show you what I'm talking about here, this custom HTML menu. I can do this same type of thing on the actual category pages of my site. Buying guide, consumer concerns, and brands are the category pages of my website. And then I also have the subcategory page Azon down here. So these 4 different pages, I need to create a custom HTML menu on them. I could create one just like the one you see on this particular page. It really just kind of depends on how many different pages you might need to link up to and whether you want to provide information about each of those individual pages or not. For example, in this situation, I'm providing a brief description right here, but this is a description about this category page. I'm not actually describing any of these pages right here beyond these couple of words that I have mentioned in the actual links for these pages. So if I want to provide a little bit more information, I can't really use this particular design on these additional category pages, so I wanted to make sure to show all of you guys an additional technique that you can actually use to create custom HTML menus. So I have a second design to show you guys tonight. Now, to start with, I'm going to go into one of these particular category pages. I'll start with the one furthest on the left over here with the buying guide. So I will simply edit my Down Comforter buying guide page. Now, initially, the content that I had created on this particular page, I have each of these different sections in my content, and each of the sections correlate to a specific page that is going to be on my site. So each of these sections are going to be built into this custom HTML menu that I'm going to create. Now, just like the first time around, I provide you guys with all of the custom HTML and even CSS that you are going to need to make this particular design happen on your sites. So you can find this in the guidebook, so you can simply copy this and paste it into your own page. You can do this work in your actual page if you want to, or you could be doing this inside of a notepad file. It really doesn't matter. So to start with, just to show you how this works, I'm going to copy this HTML code one time and paste it into my page. This HTML code that I have pasted will be the code that I am using for one single page section right here. This is going to be my header text and also the paragraph or two worth of a description that I have provided here. So everything in the HTML code, wherever you see the capital letters, this is going to be information that you will want to replace in this code with your own content. So right here I have linked page title. All I have to do is take the page title that I want to use and paste it in right here. And then I'm going to link this up to that actual page on my website. So all I have to do is select comforter sizes, click on link, and then this opens up my link menu right here. And now all I have to do is find the page in this particular list that I want to link up to. So I simply find the comforter sizes page, and then I click on add link, and that links it up for me. So I do the same thing down here. I have my long page description. This is my long description that I have written out for this particular page. So I'm going to cut this and paste this back in up above to wipe out those capital letters that I had in there previously as a placeholder. So this now puts my description into place for me. Now, if you look right down below here, this right here says link to your page. So as you can see, the HTML code for the link itself is already provided. I just really need the link itself. So I'm going to delete that text right there. And all I have to do is come up here and simply copy the website address from this particular link and paste it in down here below. So now there will be a text link at the end of this description that will say read more, and this creates a little double arrow next to it. So when somebody clicks on it, they can continue on to that page to read everything that I have to offer about that content. So the last portion here that I need to take care of is this thumbnail image right here. This thumbnail image can be, any kind of image that I want it to be, really, as long as it is relational to this particular page that I'm creating. This gets added into my site through this Add Media button right here. So this is my comforter sizes page. I simply go in and upload a file right here, and then I can pick any file that I would like to choose to use on this particular page. So this is the mattress sizes picture that I have previously selected to use for this particular purpose. Once it gets uploaded, you can see that it's checked right here. So when I click on Insert into Page, it will automatically put that in the page for me. But I go ahead and go down here and change the link to none, and I also want to make sure that the size right here is set to thumbnail because I don't want this image to be too large. As you can see right here, this particular image is much larger than 150 by 150. And each of the different images that I've selected, they might be different sizes from one another. So if you're using a bunch of images and they're all different sizes being displayed on the page, it can end up looking strange, especially when the rest of it seems to kind of have a particular order to it. So I try to keep everything looking the same by simply setting this as the thumbnail, and this regulates all the pictures to 150 by 150 pixels. So once I have completed this and have my image uploaded, I simply click on the button here and insert it into the page. You can see the capital letters that I had there for the image are now wiped out. Make sure you don't leave any of those capital letters in there because they will end up showing up on your live website if you don't. Now, the last thing that I want to do here, this particular image is simply going to be an image on the page. I want people to be able to click on this image and reach the page that I am actually talking about here and showing this picture for. Because a lot of people will actually click on images, perhaps thinking that it's going to enlarge the picture or something, but at the very least it will take them to the additional page on the site to show them more information about it. So all I simply do is select one of the links that I have previously created, and I start with the beginning part of it and paste it in here, and then I go to the end of it and I paste that in at the end of it. Now, you could also do this by simply selecting the image HTML right here and then creating a link to it, just like we did with the text link up above here. Personally, I just find it a lot easier and quicker once I've created one link using that method to just copy and paste the necessary HTML coding. But if you're not comfortable with the HTML coding, then continue to simply create your links using this button up here. Either way, it doesn't really matter. It will give you the same end result in terms of what it's going to do on your website. Now, the last thing that I need to do before all of this is going to work and appear correctly on my site, if you remember me mentioning in the previous class about the auto paragraph processing that WordPress does, involving the other custom HTML menu that I had been creating, I actually end up removing all of the white space from it. And this is basically my blank lines. So what I will do is remove the word wrap here and simply delete any of the blank lines. Now, right here where I have my description and I have a blank line, I want this blank line to remain. And this is actually going to end up showing up on my site, so it splits this content into two different paragraphs. But other than this description where I have two different paragraphs, I want to make sure the rest of the new lines are wiped out. So all I do is simply hit the backspace button, and then I can hit the home key again to jump right to the beginning of the line. And I do this until I reach the very top here. So now I simply select all of this HTML code and I can paste this back into my site. Now, I did this over there in the Notepad file just simply because I find it a little bit easier using that word wrap feature in Notepad right here. Basically, when you're looking at it here in your editor, it's already wrapping everything for you. So it might be a little hard to distinguish what is really the beginning of a line that you need to backspace up to the next line, or whether it is simply text being wrapped around to the next line. So in the Notepad file here, you can easily tell whether it is being wrapped or not by simply disabling the word wrap, and then you can figure out where all of your line breaks really are. Then, once you're pasting it back in, it ends up looking more like this. So I find it a lot less confusing to simply disable the word wrap here, so I can remove all those blank lines. Now, once this is done, and I have this entered in, I simply go through and repeat the process with these remaining sections here. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. I'm running a bit of a cold this week. Each of these sections are, again, corresponding to specific pages on my site. So I just continue with creating my custom HTML coding and update it here until I have proceeded through this entire list. And then I continue this process on all of my different category pages and even subcategory pages of my site. So everything ends up getting linked together. Now, obviously there is a lot of busy work kind of involved with setting this up, and it's done the same way each and every time that you do it. So there's really not a lot of point to making you guys sit here and watch me continue this process, because I have to do this a number more times for each of these different pages that are being listed here. So I'm going to continue on and go on to more relevant teachings here. And this would be going on to the CSS code for this. But I'm going to go ahead and pull out the completed HTML for this. I've already set this up, so I don't have to sit here and bore you guys for the next 10 minutes setting up each of these different sections for this page here. So I'm going to copy and paste my HTML code that I've already set up for these different sections. Give me just 1 second here. Okay, so I'm going to replace these bottom 4 sections here. I have down alternative, color selection, thread count, and fill power. And all of this is getting replaced with HTML, just like I had done on this very first section up here for the comforter sizes. So I replace all my titles, my descriptions, I put in a custom image that I want to use, and then I link up both the title and the image, and then also this read more link down here so that it all links up to my actual page on my site. Now, once this is all done, and I have created all the HTML that I need to create on this page, I again continue this process on the different category pages and subcategory pages that I have created on this particular site. Once I have all of those pages completed and all of this in place, then to get everything to actually appear correct on my live site, I need to add in the CSS coding for it. Just to show you guys what this would look like without the CSS coding, I go over here to my live website, and you can see that everything just kind of doesn't really have a place to it, so to speak. It's all just kind of landing wherever it wants to land in the content. So to fix all this, the CSS coding will not only organize this and make it look a little bit better, but it'll also kind of style things up a little bit, kind of similar to what I had done on the home page of my site. So again, you don't have to actually worry about the CSS coding for this particular step. This CSS coding is provided for you in the guidebook for tonight's lesson, and all you have to do is copy that CSS coding and paste it into your theme. Now again, I use Weaver 2, so I go into the Weaver 2 admin right here, and to paste this in, all I have to do is go to Advanced Options and then the Head section right here. Now let me pull up this CSS coding. This is the CSS coding that I've created. It's a lot less CSS coding than the previous design involved. Now, you already have CSS coding in this custom CSS rules box. This is from the first box that I had created in the previous class for the home page. So what I want to do is I want to make sure I don't mess up any of this existing CSS coding. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom here. I'll put my cursor right here on the last line and then simply hit the enter button so I move down onto a fresh line. And then I'm going to paste all of my CSS coding in right here. Now once this is done, as you can see, let me expand this just a little bit so you can see this a little more clearly. I have my new CSS code, which is all DCG box 2, and everything above that, DCG box. This all applies to the custom CSS for my homepage boxes. So as you can see, they're sitting here side by side and not really interacting with one another, so to speak. I didn't mess up what I had done originally by pasting this in. So, again, very important. Make sure you don't wipe out what we had done there in the previous class. So once you have pasted this CSS coding in and you update it on your page, you can simply return to your page and refresh it, and then everything that we had previously created in terms of the custom HTML menus here, these are now all properly designed for me, and everything has a uniform look to it. All my pictures are pushed off here to the right hand side. All of my titles are in the same place and using the same size and design of text. I also have a little border built in here, and then everything ends with a read more link. Now, clicking on any one of these given links on this page takes me to that particular page on my website. So I click here and I end up on the mattress sizes page that talks about the different mattress sizes that are available, shows a picture of them, shows a comparison chart that even lists all the different dimensions for the mattresses themselves and the different accessories that go along with it, like fitted sheet and a flat sheet, a duvet comforter, and a comforter, because for each different size, the sizes for these different accessories and products that go along with beds can vary. So I thought this would be, again, important, useful information for people to actually have at their disposal. So I've provided all this here. Now, after this is done, once you have gone through all of the different category pages of your site and modified them to look like this particular category page, then you really have a completed site, more or less, in terms of navigation. People can go to your home page and then they could click on a particular category here and navigate to that particular category, and then navigate on to additional pages of your site. But then also back here on the home page, if you remember, each of these different links, I had not previously set an address for these links. So if I click on one of these links, as you can see, it just reloads this particular page. So I have to go through and edit these links right here and make sure they point to the appropriate pages of my site. This all ensures that everything is simply linked together and connected up properly so people can navigate through these different custom HTML menus that I've created. Now, one of the next things that I like to do on my sites, I kind of have some different steps that I proceed through to get things tidy up, to make things a little bit more user-friendly, and also to help and boost the potential search engine rankings of these pages that I've created. One of these things that I do is to interlink the content of all the different pages of my site. But I don't want to do this haphazardly, more or less. I have a specific way that I am looking to funnel the traffic through the pages of my site. In a lot of situations, I'm going to have people entering into my site, not through the product pages necessarily, but potentially through these different informational pages that I have set up on my site. So what I want to do is make sure that these pages actually link up to the product pages that I have on my site. So when people are done looking at the informational content and they feel more empowered by their knowledge and they're ready to proceed with making a purchase, then I want to make sure that that link is somewhere where they can easily find it on that page. But I do this in a way so that everything makes sense. I don't want to just randomly promote a product on my own site simply because it's there. I want to promote it on particular informational pages based on the information that I'm presenting there. So to give you one example, on this leaking feathers page, I'm talking about consumer concerns here. These leaking feathers is an issue that a lot of people have in their down comforters. So what I want to do is actually link up to specific products that I might be promoting on this site that actually help to solve this problem. So I'm not only providing people with the information for this problem, but I'm also providing them with the solution for it in terms of an actual product. For leaking feathers, this happens to be Pacific Coast down comforters. They have this special patented barrier weave fabric where everything is really tightly woven, and it also has this extra layer of protection to actually keep the feathers from working their way out through the holes in the threads of the fabric for the comforter. So this is somewhere people can land looking to find out information or looking to solve a problem. And then I educate them on the information and then proceed them along to complete the purchase on a product that will solve their problem. It's simply a win-win for everybody. Now, what I will do, for example, down here is I might link up a particular keyword phrase. I might link up perhaps this phrase right here, Pacific Coast page, because I kind of have a call to action already put into my content here. If you'd like to learn more, take a look at our Pacific Coast page. So I could link up the words Pacific Coast page, or I could possibly just link up the words Pacific Coast right here and make this point to the Pacific Coast product page that I have set up on my site that then advertises Pacific Coast down comforters. So there's a couple different ways that you can actually accomplish this interlinking of the different pages of your website. One of the ways is pretty obvious and straightforward also. Manual interlinking. All you're doing is simply editing the content of your page, and then you simply find the text that you want to link up and you create the link yourself. You go up here and you find the page that you're trying to link up to, and you simply select that page right here and add the link into your site. Well, the other way that you can actually go about doing this is an automated method. Now, in terms of which one you actually use, it's kind of up to your own discretion. Personally, I like to do manual more often than I do automatic, simply because I have more control over where those links are going to be placed. Now, depending on the content of the different pages of your site and depending on the keywords that you want to actually be linked up and where you want those links to be, sometimes the automatic links can end up working out good for you, whereas in other situations you might simply want to stick with the manual links to maintain that extra level of control. So to show you what I'm talking about here, let me jump back to one of these, let's see, I'll go back to this leaking feathers page here where I was showing you this Pacific Coast text. Now, with a manual link, I can easily add that in using this keyword phrase right here down at the bottom of the page in the content where I've kind of already set myself up for creating this particular link. Well, if you're using automatic links, what you're doing is assigning a keyword phrase that should be linked up to to a specific page on your site. So you'd be providing the keyword phrase Pacific Coast, and wherever that phrase could be found on other pages throughout the site would then be linked up to the Pacific Coast page. But the problem with the automatic linking here is that you don't necessarily get a choice over which occurrence of that particular phrase will be used. In fact, it's going to use the first possible occurrence that it can find. There are ways to exclude certain occurrences. You can say that you don't want it to pick up keyword phrases perhaps in this header HTML tag that you've used. I believe I've used the strong HTML tag here. So you can specify to ignore this strong tag, but otherwise it's going to look at all the rest of your content, and so it might automatically link this occurrence of Pacific Coast right here instead of this particular one for me. So if you do decide to use the automatic linking, simply browse through the pages of your site after you set it all up and make sure it's actually creating the links where you want those links to be created. Now, to show you how this actually works here, I'm not familiar with that term, Ruben. It's possible. I don't more or less always use the same lingo, I guess, as other marketers. I guess I sometimes tend to kind of call things, I don't know, something that works in my own head and also works in terms of teaching it to other people. So I'm not familiar with that term, silos. It could be. It might not be, though. Sorry. I know that's not a great response. I prefer to give you a bad response than an inaccurate one, I guess. Now to set up this linking, we can actually use an existing plugin that we have already created or set up on this site, and this is our SEO plugin. It uses this feature right here, Deep Link Juggernaut, and it will actually create these automated links for you. All you have to do to create these links is simply punch them into this particular page here. But you can also go into your individual pages if you want to, so you don't have to set the destinations for them. You can have all of this done for you by simply editing a page. So what I'm going to do here is edit one of these pages so I can show you exactly how this works. I'm going to edit this Pacific Coast page to stay along the lines of, wait a second, that's not my proper content. I may not have set that up. Give me 1 second here. Stan's saying us, Ruben, that a silo is where you have a main topic / page and all related pages are subordinate to it, sort of an outline framework. You're quite welcome. Said thank you, Stan. Okay, just about ready to go here. Okay, so I've got this content put up on this Pacific Coast page. I was missing this previously. Now, all you have to do to create the automatic links, obviously this is my Pacific Coast page, and on the other page that I had been pointing out to you, I was showing you that I wanted to have the term Pacific Coast automatically linked up to this page. So all I have to do is go down into the SEO settings on the Pacific Coast page and simply type in the words Pacific Coast on one line. And if I wanted to use some additional phrases, I could continue to go on and provide additional phrases here that I wanted to be linked up. But at a minimum, you just need one, and all this will start working for you. Now, this option right here, auto link exclusion, in most cases, you don't want this text on the same page to be linking back to the same page. It's kind of a useless link. So simply select this checkbox right here, and it'll only create those auto links on other pages of the site pointing to this page. So once you have this link information set up here, simply update the content of the page, and then I could go back to, for example, my mattress page and view the content of that page and scroll down to the bottom here. Wait a second, that wasn't the right page. What page was I on? The feather page. My apologies. And I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing two different pages right here for the same title. It's possible that I may have duplicated that page and actually not including the one page that I'm searching for here. Trying to think whether Pacific Coast is going to be included on some of these other pages here. I know a solution. Sorry, minor hiccup there real quick. By simply typing in Pacific Coast here into this link page, searching the content of my site, it will actually pull up the different pages on my site where I have used that particular term. So I can then easily identify one of these pages and go and take a look at it. It's actually saying that on this specific page right here that I have used the term Pacific Coast. You can see right down here at the bottom, this link right here does not actually exist. Right here in the content of my page, see where it says Pins On and Pacific Coast? There are no links here in my content, but on my live website, there are now links pointing to those particular pages of my website. So the auto linking is done for me, but again, I have no control over where it's actually going to put those links, with the exception of, where those keyword phrases are appearing in my content. That's where those links will be created. So if you need those links showing up somewhere else because simply it makes more sense, or in this situation, like I obviously need these pages linked up to the Azon and the Pacific Coast pages. So if it didn't auto-link these for me correctly, I would have to go in and create these links manually so the traffic properly funnels through the different pages of my site and they end up where I want them to end up, which would be on the product pages of my site, like my Pacific Coast page, for example. And then there will end up being advertisements for Pacific Coast comforters that get displayed here. Now, in addition to simply letting this work the way that it's going to work, there are some additional options that you have available in the deep link juggernaut right here. These different tabs right here, if you go over into the content link settings, for example, you can choose whether the auto links are added to posts or pages or media, being different images, perhaps the captions for images that you've included in there. And then you also have some additional settings here. Some of the main ones that I like to use are found right here, quantity restrictions. I don't want too many of these auto links actually getting created for me. In particular, I don't want too many links pointing to the same page occurring on the same page. So I don't want a page where every single occurrence of Pacific Coast gets linked up to that page. I just want it to be linked up maybe one time from that page. So these settings right here controls how often these auto links actually take place. So all you have to do is select these 5 different checkboxes right here, and then you can adjust the numbers in the text boxes to control and limit the amount of auto links that are created. I typically use these settings 3, 1, and 1 on my sites where I actually am using the auto linking. This ensures that no more than 3 links are getting created on any one given page, and out of those 3 links, those will actually be 3 different links. It will never create the same link twice on the same page. So in addition to these settings, there are a couple more here. If you remember previously, I had told you that you can add different HTML tags in for restrictions, so they're actually excluded from being processed for these auto links. This is where you would do that. So your different header areas of your page, for example, right here, if I have this surrounded with strong HTML tags, I could simply enter in strong right here, and it would then exclude all of the text that is in these headers right here from possibly being created as an auto link, because it simply wouldn't look right for the header or a portion of that header text to end up being linked up to a page. It should be text somewhere within the content, just the standard article content of my page, like the term Pacific Coast down here at the bottom, for example. So these different settings, if you decide to use this, hey look, there is something about siloing here. Posts can only link to internal destinations that share at least one category or tag. It looks like you can do siloing with the post system using this, but it doesn't look like that's set up to do anything for the pages. Now, the next thing that I typically will go to do on my sites, after this interlinking is taken care of, my site is pretty easy to navigate at this point. People can navigate through the custom HTML menu that I've created here. They can also navigate through the different auto links that may have been created in the content of my pages. But ultimately, up here across the top of my page, this menu still only has a link to the home page. So when people have moved away from my home page, perhaps to a category page or to additional pages on my site, they really can't continue to navigate anywhere backwards except to the home page itself. So I want to actually correct this and have my own customized menu showing up across the top of the site here. I had previously already gone through and set up some of this information. Well, let me save the changes for Deep Link Juggernaut here. I had previously gone through, this is under Appearance and Menus. I have previously created this top menu right here, which contains that home link. Now all I have to do to expand that particular menu is simply find the different pages that I want to add to it in my list over here, and then I just have to select them and add them to the menu. So I have, let's see, my brands page, I have my buying guide page, I have my consumer concerns page, and my About Us page will also be linked from this section. So these 4 pages, in addition to my home page right here, all I have to do is click on the Add to Menu button, and now all these different pages are included in my menu. So I'm going to simply click on one and drag it and drop it to a new position to change how this gets displayed on my site. So if I wanted this one to show up further up, I just drag it into a new place. Now, as you can see, the text for these links was automatically set for me. I don't necessarily want to have all of these links named after the title of the page, because some of these pages might have descriptive titles that are a lot longer, and all of that simply wouldn't fit into one single line of a menu right here. So you sometimes have to shorten things a little bit to a point where it still makes sense. What I will often do, though, is simply copy the page title that was automatically put in there, and I will transfer that into the title attribute right here. And then I will just shorten the actual text link here to something that still makes sense but doesn't take up as much space, basically. Now, I continue to do this same thing for the rest of these pages. Consumer concerns, that's okay. I don't necessarily need that to be shortened anymore. For this one, I could leave the whole thing there, or I could shorten it to just say Comforter Brands, for example. I will typically do that. I try not to go over 2 words for each link if I can possibly help it. Now for the About Us page, I'll typically just say About, and then I'll put like the name of the website, put down comforterguide.com. Now once I've done this, I have the 5 different links for this menu set up. All I have to do is click on the Save Menu button right here, and this automatically gets updated on my site. I don't have to do anything else beyond that to get all this to work. I simply refresh my page, and now all of these different pages are automatically linked up from the header of my site. And this continues on for the other pages that I've already set up. So no matter where I go, I can easily navigate my way back to any given category that I have created on this site. Or I could also go to the About Us page, for example. Now, in the same way that I have gone through and created this particular menu, I can actually do the same thing to create menus for myself for each of these different categories on my site. So for the buying guide, for example, I could have a customized menu that would link up to these 5 pages that are within that particular category. Now, the reason I do this is to actually include the menu in the sidebar. If you notice on the different pages of the site that do use the sidebar is pretty much blank with the exception of this search bar right here. So I actually need to put some kind of information over here to fill up this space in the sidebar, or I really just don't have a need for it and I would simply wipe out the use of the sidebars throughout the entire website. But on this site, I'm going to create customized menus that can go in the sidebar here. And these menus are going to change depending on what part of my website you are actually on. Now, to start this off, I need to create a new menu that I can use. And this is done through the standard WordPress menu system right here. All I have to do is click on the text link to create a new menu, and then I simply provide a name for it. So I will call this the buying guide. This menu name will not show up on your public site. This is just for your own reference. Now, this works just like the other menu I created. I have these settings down here, but I'm actually not going to be using these particular settings. All I'm going to be doing is adding pages into this menu. Now, the pages that I'm going to add in are pages that relate to that particular category. So for my buying guide, I will have comforter sizes and fill power and thread count and color selection and down alternative and so on and so forth. So I'm going to create 3 different menus that I can use on these 3 different category pages of my site. So just to show you briefly how this would actually work, I'm going to at least create this one buying guide menu for you guys here and show you how to put this in action on your live website. Now, to start with, all I'm doing here is simply clicking on the different pages that are listed here that I want to have included in this particular menu here. Now, I have my down alternative page. I'm going to have 5 total ones. I have down colors. I'm also going to have the fill power page and thread count page. And let's see, the last one would be the sizes guide. So after I have my pages selected, I just add them into the menu using the button available right here. And this automatically sets up my menu for me. Now, just like I had done with the previous menu that I created, I don't want to use this menu exactly as it sets it all up for me. I want to rearrange the pages in a particular order, whatever order you feel like makes more sense in. If you have them in a specific order on your home page, you can continue that same order in your menu, so it kind of helps to make a little bit more sense to people. So simply drag and drop your different menu items till you arrange them however you would like to arrange them. So after that, I then proceed with changing the actual link text once again. I typically take the title of the page and I move it over into the title attribute, and then I will simply shorten the navigation label to be something shorter and meaningful still. So for this one, I will shorten this to Sizes Guide. For this one right here, I will shorten this to Fill Power Ratings. And then, I continue on through here and complete this through for each of these remaining menu items in my list here. Now, once this gets completed, what I can do is actually take this menu and insert it into my page, but instead of just doing this as a standard widget and having it show up throughout all of the pages on my site, what I'm actually looking to do is only have this menu show up on one of these 5 pages or on the category page itself. So the different parts of my site will have their own menu relational to that portion of my site. Now, once I've finished this whole menu, getting everything edited here, make sure you click on the Save button over here to update everything so it's all saved in the system. After this is done, we can then proceed with starting to create this widget. Now, I actually use another plugin to help me out with this. So I'm going to proceed on to install this particular plugin so I can get this accomplished. This is called Shortcode Menu. Just go to Plugins and Add New, type in Shortcode Menu and search for it, and then simply install this particular plugin on your site. Now, once this is installed and you have it activated, what I want to do is go to the menu for it. You can see over here in the sidebar menu that I now have this Shortcode Menus page for me. So all I have to do is go to this particular page, and in this drop-down box right here, I just select the menu that I want to use. So I'm going to be doing the buying guide right here. After I select this, I have some different options that I could choose from right here in terms of how it looks. There's really nothing too horribly complicated with this. If you wanted to get more complicated in terms of how this gets styled, what you can actually do is add a menu class onto it and then create some custom CSS coding. Your menu class right here, this is a class right here in the CSS coding. So you can reference your menu class in some CSS coding and style it up a little bit if you would like to. But that's really not something that you absolutely have to do. All you really have to do is just get this shortcode menu right here. Just select this and copy it and proceed through the different menus that you have created here and retrieve all the different shortcodes for those menus. And I'll just take these shortcodes and put them in a notepad file just to hold on to them for the time being. Now, once this is done, the next step of this process is to go in to the widgets. This is under Appearance and Widgets. This time, what I am looking for is the Weaver 2 per page text widget right here. This is displaying text on a per page basis. Now, I could add a menu using this custom menu right here, but this won't let me determine whether that menu shows up on different pages of the site or not. This custom menu would show up on every page throughout the entire site as long as that page was using the sidebar. So to have all this customized, I need to use this one right here. So I'm going to drag this into a widget location wherever I want the menus to show up in the sidebar. So I put this directly underneath my search bar that is already here. Now, this text right here, this kind of describes how all of this works, but I will be walking you guys through this particular process here. So you don't have to try to decipher this, because this can definitely be a little bit confusing. But basically what we're going to do in order to specify particular pages on our site that will show particular menus, we're going to be creating custom fields on the different pages of our site that will be showing one of these custom menus in the sidebar. So to do this, we have two different custom fields that we could use. Right here, this title, WVR_PP_title, this will be the title of that widget. And then this text field right here, this will be set as the content of that widget. So to show you how this actually works, I'm going to return to, I'll go to my buying guide page that I have set up right here. And I edit this particular page. And further down the page here, I'm looking for this Weaver 2 options section. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I need to go, where is it at? I'm not seeing it. Sometimes it doesn't get displayed. If you're not seeing it, yeah, it's not even being shown up on my page. Click this Screen Options tab right here and just click on the Custom Fields box right here. And this will show the particular settings that we need to be messing with right here. So now, all the way down at the bottom, I have custom fields. So what I want to do is name my field and then provide a value for the field. There are some preset names that are already in here, but what we actually want to create is not one of these. So I need to click on this Enter New text link right here, and this turns this into a blank text box. So the name that goes in right here comes from the widget right here, WVR PP title. So I simply type that in, WVR_PP_title. And then whatever value I enter in for this custom field will be the value of the title. So that will be displayed on my live website in the widget as kind of the header text of this particular widget. So I could simply call this buying guide, for example. And then I want to proceed on with creating an additional field by clicking on the Add Custom Field button right here. And then I need to add in a second one for the text. Now, the text value that I'm putting in, this is the content of my menu. So to get the actual menu to show up here that is based off of the menu that I've created through appearance and menus, I want that menu to automatically get updated if I ever edit this menu. I don't want to be entering in custom HTML coding right here, because this menu is going to get repeated a number of different times on my site. It's not just going to be in one location. So to accomplish this, I am using that shortcode menu from this plugin that I was just showing you guys before. This shortcode menu right here, I just copy this for the buying guide menu, And in the page that I am editing for the text, I simply paste this short code in as the value of this custom field that I've created. And then I just click on the Add Custom Field button, and that saves it in this system. This isn't necessarily adding in a new field, but it's saving what you are editing right here. So make sure you click this whenever you're finished, or it won't actually save this in the page. Now, once this is done, all I have to do is scroll back up here and update this particular page. And then when I return to view this page on my live site, over here in the sidebar is my custom menu that I've created, and it links to the different pages throughout this particular part of my website here. So what I will want to do now is to continue on through each of these 5 pages right here, the sizes guide. See, when I click on this, my menu now disappears. So to fix this, I have to go into those 5 pages as well and scroll down to the bottom and set up that same custom menu. Now, you can see once I have actually entered in these custom field names once, then they show up for me automatically in this drop-down box. So you don't have to keep remembering them or typing them in. You can simply select this in the list now and just type in buying guide right here, and then add in another custom field that will contain our menu shortcode. So then after repeating this process on the different pages relating to this section of the website, now when I am on these additional pages, I can continue to navigate through the various pages within this one category without having to essentially backtrack. So I don't have to keep going back to the main buying guide page every time I want to get to a different page. I can simply find what page I want to view, click it in my menu right here, and continue navigating to other parts of it by clicking on another link in my menu. So this whole customized menu setup that I have done here, the reason for doing this, there's honestly kind of a couple of reasons why I like to do this. Number one, obviously, is for search engines. This helps to keep all of your relational pages linked up with each other. They're kind of creating these different areas of your site, and each of these areas tends to have a little bit more relevance. Maybe it's a particular subtopic. And so you're helping to boost the relevancy of these particular sections of your site and the corresponding category pages, for example. But then obviously, in addition to whatever search engine benefits may come as a result of this, you're also simply making your site more user-friendly for people in this method. Now, even though I have just used this example to create a custom HTML menu that only shows up on particular pages of the site, you can really use this same concept here to create widgets that are only going to show up on certain pages, but the widgets don't have to be menus. The widgets could be anything else. It could be a newsletter sign-up form. It could be an advertisement. It could be accessory advertisements. It could be links to additional relational pages that go along with the particular page that's being viewed. So I encourage you guys to kind of explore the possibilities of what you can do on each of your pages. If you're going to be including this sidebar right here try to fill up as much of it as you possibly can for the content that you have on your site. For this particular page, obviously I have a decent amount of content going down my page. So if I wasn't going to have this menu right here, there might not be much of a point in having the sidebar on this page. But if I had other types of content that I could provide here in the sidebar to help fill up this additional white space, then it becomes something useful for my website. Now, I have a few additional things that I will typically put in the sidebars of my sites, and I will be covering these things in future classes. One in particular would be next week, for example, when we get into the advertising. I will be putting in accessory advertisements into the sidebar here. Now, the accessory ads won't show up on every single page of my site, but any pages of my site that end up promoting a Amazon product, then the accessories will show up in the sidebar of those particular pages. So it's not just randomly promoting accessory products. It's only doing it when there's something relational to it on the actual content of the page that I'm viewing. Now, another thing that I will use this sidebar for is to connect up to social networks that you may be involved in with this particular site. I will be talking to you guys about Facebook, YouTube, Google+, all these different properties. You can connect up with your website, put a news feed for a Facebook fan page that you have created for your website, and have that news feed in the sidebar to not only take up additional space, but to also make your site look more friendly and inviting, and to show that you are involved with your website traffic and you're social with them. Because that kind of stuff these days goes really a long way to helping to build that level of trust, and it also gives you an opportunity to retain future contact with that person through various social networks and things of that nature. Now, obviously in the next class we will be going back through and doing our advertising. But beyond the advertising, this site is pretty much completed now. The only thing that really still needs to be completed on this particular site is going back through the different custom menus that I've created and ensuring that I have all these links set up properly. Obviously, I was explaining this to you earlier on the home page of my site, how each of these different links in this menu really just point back to the home page at the moment. So I have to go through and point these links to the appropriate pages on my site that didn't actually exist when this particular menu was originally created. So once you have everything linked up together, you have your menus created, you have all of your widgets set up, the last thing that you really need to do on a site is just to browse through your different content pages and see how everything looks. One thing in particular that I always look for is just any section of content, basically, that includes too much text and nothing else. For example, down here, I have a huge section of text right here. So, I want to break up text that is in large paragraphs or a bunch of different paragraphs all together whenever I possibly can. And I do this using headers. I do this using HTML lists. I do this using images that I insert on the page. Like on this size guide page where I have the size of the different mattresses and dimensions that go along with them. I also use as I had mentioned before, the comparison tables, which don't have to necessarily be used to compare different products with one another. It could just be used to present information in a more logical manner. For example, if I were to try to convey the different sizes of each of these different beds and the different products that go along with these different sizes in more of an article format, it would be pretty confusing. And ultimately, people wouldn't be able to easily retrieve the information they needed out of that because nobody's going to need to know all of this. Most people would only say, okay, well, I need a queen bed, so this is the row that I'm interested in. So I can simply focus on this and I can ignore everything else because it's not important to me. Any situation where you have like this, where you know that any given person is not going to need all of the information there, that they're just going to need one particular portion of it, I recommend using tables like this to help separate that information so they can retrieve what it is they are wanting to retrieve in a timely manner without having to hunt through all of your content to try to get that. Are there any questions that you guys may have for me at this point in terms of creating your sites, creating your content, getting everything linked up and connected together, or even the organization and structuring of your sites? Basically anything leading up to the point where we are at now in this class, minus our advertising on our site. If there's anything that I have perhaps not been clear enough or explained enough for you guys, please feel free to ask any questions you may have. I'd be more than happy to go into a little more detail for you on something particular. Now again, next week we will be continuing on with the advertising for the site. Next week is actually a pretty long class compared with the other ones. The amount of content I have to offer in each of these classes does tend to vary from one class to the next, simply depending on what I'm going to be teaching that particular week. And next week is quite a massive class. The guidebook for next week is 40 pages long. So it's a lot of information to go through, and as such, the actual webinar class for next week will likely end up being over 2 hours and could even end up being closer to 3 hours, in fact. But I will be going through my 5 Amazon plugins that I've provided to every single person that is in this live class, and I will be teaching you guys how to get all these set up and installed on your site, and then proceeding through teaching you how to actually use them to create advertisements, and then we will add the advertisements to the website so it can actually start earning commissions for us when we have traffic on our site. So we're almost there in terms of having this site completely finished. One particular thing that I thought would be useful to mention to you guys, a lot of people start to wonder at this point in the process when they might be able to expect to see traffic on their website. When can you expect to get search engine rankings if you are creating your content correctly? Ultimately, this can be one of the more confusing parts in terms of trying to create these sites and gauge how successful your work is actually doing for you, because not everything is instantaneous in the search engine world. Just because you've completed your site doesn't necessarily mean that Google has indexed your entire site. And if it has indexed all the pages, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's indexed the most recent versions of all of your pages. And everything else that you have set up out there after this point in terms of all the marketing that you do for sites, all that can kind of cloud things even more. But the truth is, there's no one particular set of rules that you can use to gauge whether you're doing things right or not. You just simply have to be a little bit patient with the search engines, especially Google. If you're looking for Google rankings, the Google rankings will probably come last after all the other search engines. I'll typically see Bing and Yahoo traffic, MSN traffic, before the Google traffic actually comes in. And this applies more to brand new websites than it does older websites, simply because when you go through and create a brand new website, if you do it in a fairly quick period of time, let's say you hired somebody and they wrote all of your content for you, and you went through and created your entire website in a single day because you didn't have to actually do any of that writing yourself. Google can sometimes look at sites created too hastily and maybe consider whether or not that site is going to be a good fit. And so it puts it through what's called a Google dance. And sometimes your site can be in this Google dance and you may think you've done everything completely wrong and that you're not getting rankings in Google, when in fact that may not be the case at all. In fact, your site may be dancing in Google because you did a good job, and Google needs to kind of run some tests on your site and randomly put it back into the rankings to see if it's something that people are actually looking for. Now, obviously, there are no exact details in terms of how this all works on Google's end, but I have experienced a lot of this on my side, especially with brand new websites. They will sometimes show up in the rankings initially, and then they may completely disappear. You can go through every single page of the Google results and not find your site listed anywhere, even though it was just there a week ago. Do not initially start freaking out and trying to make changes to your site until you give it a little bit of time to let everything kind of solidify, and so you can figure out where Google is putting you in terms of a more permanent ranking position. Because I have found plenty of situations. In fact, most of my really great Google rankings will go through that type of dance. For some of you that may not know what I'm talking about exactly as far as a Google dance goes, basically the Google dance is a term that people kind of labeled this when Google will dance your search engine result around in their listings. It'll put it in different places. It might completely exclude it entirely. And it does this to try to gauge whether your result might be what people are looking for, or at least that's what I kind of perceive it as doing. Because it doesn't seem to be a bad sign, it seems to be a good sign. It's almost like Google looking at your site and saying, you know, whoa, where'd this come from all of a sudden? You know, I need to put this on the back burner before jumping it up there in the rankings to make sure that this is actually going to be a quality result. So a lot of times when your site can be found in the rankings and then disappears completely, as long as your website is still indexed in Google, you know, you type in the term site, colon, and then your domain name, as long as it's still telling you there are pages indexed on your website, don't start freaking out if you can't find that page in their rankings anywhere. That just means you're dancing. So give it a little bit of time. In terms of how much time, it can really vary quite a bit. It could be a couple of days, it could be a couple of weeks, it could even end up taking a month or two in some situations. Sometimes you don't get danced even just one time. It could be multiple dances. You could be put through one, you show back up in the rankings, you start getting some good traffic, and you get a little excited about it, and then all of a sudden you're gone again. Well, it can still come back another time. Eventually, it will settle down into a more permanent position, though, once Google runs it through exactly what it is doing. Obviously, I can't say exactly what it's doing because they don't disclose that information, but I at least thought it would be important to mention this to you guys so you don't freak out on your own sites, for example, and start changing things in your content before you really give it time to settle and see what it's going to do in the search rankings. Give it a month or two and see where your rankings are at. Wait for your placement to stop jumping all over the place, and then start making some additional adjustments to it. And that's also why I like to build more than just one site, not necessarily at one time, but I'll build one site and then move on to build another site. And then when I'm finished with that site, I'll return to the first site and check up on it and see how things are going and make some additional adjustments to it if need be. That way, I'm not just solely focused on one site. I think you can kind of end up getting in a little bit of trouble that way because you're kind of developing like an obsessive compulsive disorder, if you will, in terms of your one website, because that's all you have to do and focus on. Yeah, Linda, that sounds right, really. She said, I've had that happen. Site immediately showed up on first page, then it disappeared completely for a while, then showed up on page 6, then slowly moved up, and now sits anywhere between number 1 and number 4 on page 1. Yeah, it's definitely unsettling in the beginning, but it all worked out eventually. You just had to be patient. And you haven't updated that site in a while, and so it's dropped to number 4 now. Yeah, that really sounds very common, and actually what I experience on quite a bit of my sites as well, Linda. They'll show up in the rankings at first, and then they'll disappear completely for a while, and then they'll come back in, jump around to different positions, and finally settle on a more permanent position. And then over the course of time, assuming that particular niche stays popular, assuming people to continue to build pages elsewhere on the internet relating to that particular niche, you may need to return at a later point in time and refresh content, add some new content, just to keep things a little updated and modern. But honestly, like with my own sites, the ranking slip over the course of time really seems to be pretty minor, and in some cases almost non-existent. For example, one site that I've showed you guys in the rankings before, dog crate sizes. I believe it's sitting at number 3 now, if I'm not mistaken. This site has been number 1 before. It's also been lower than number 3. But for the past couple of years, I would say it was most of the time sitting at number 1. It sometimes jumps around depending on who's looking at it. But more recently, it seems to be more settled onto number 3. But there definitely seems to be a lot more in terms of content surrounding this niche than there was when this site was first created. I created this site back in 2010, and so for it to have only slipped 2 spots over the course of approximately 3 to 4 years or so, I really don't complain at that type of a ranking slip. And in fact, like Linda was saying there, all you need to do is just freshen up the site a little bit, add some new content to it. Obviously, if I still owned dog crate sizes, that's exactly what I would have been doing over the last month or two after this ranking slipped slightly. But unfortunately, I no longer own that site. I sold that off, and the new owner would have to do that if he hopes to recoup his rankings there. But typically, this updating of your sites is not something you have to do every month. You may not even have to do it every year. It could be every couple of years that you might have to go through and add some new content to a site. But honestly, every couple of years, I'd recommend updating any Amazon affiliate site, simply because the products that you promote may change during those couple of years. They're always releasing new products, new models of products, and you want to make sure you stay up to date in terms of what you're promoting, so you're not promoting the old bread, so to speak. Because obviously, once you get to a certain point, your older product sales will trickle off and kind of become non-existent. While you may still have tons of traffic on your website, if you notice those product sales slipping over time, investigate whether there's new stuff out there on the market, something more popular that people are going for instead, and change things up down the road if need be. Any additional questions that you guys may have for me? The next class will be on November the 11th. It is Monday of next week, and that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just like the other classes in this particular series.